Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. All right, welcome to the Process Podcast. This is Travis McClure and my co-host, Preston Guyton.
How are you?
Preston, I'm doing good, man. You're back from vacation this week?
Back, yes. And I am very, very not used to time.
Yeah, so you're adjusting from the West Coast to the East Coast time change?
Yep. And it's not adjusting very well.
Yeah, I think just from my travel experience, it's harder to go from west to east than it is from east to west in terms of that time zone change. Like the east to west doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, my kids are dragging this morning. For
Yeah.
sure. Getting them out of bed for school was fun.
Did you guys do like a red eye flight home?
No, we did a all day flight home.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we left at like 6:30 and then we got here at 7:30.
Yeah. I always debate like if the red eye is better because like you do a red eye flight, if like I don't know if you're like me, like I don't relax on a plane. So then I'm just up all night, right? Because I can't sleep on a plane. I don't know. I'm one of those people that can't. And then you come home, your dog tired, and you sleep, and your body just maybe readjusts that way.
Yeah, red eye and 3 kids does not sound like a whole lot of fun.
No, it doesn't. You know, your kid's a little bit older though.
Yeah, so I'll do a red eye if it's just me, like coming back from Vegas in an event or something like that. But
Yeah.
with the kids, just dragging them around the airport at 10 o'clock, and then you leave, and then you stop at another airport, and it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of fun.
It does not sound fun. But you guys had a great trip.
It was amazing, man. First time we ever been to Park City. First time been out west skiing. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think we're going to be disappointed when we go back just because I heard probably 40 different times from people that live there or travel there that's the best snow they've ever seen.
That's outstanding. Good. Did they use the term good powder? Is that what they said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good powder. A lot of powder. I think it snowed like 50 inches since we were there.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did you get any running in while you were there?
I tried to.
Yeah.
No, not my knee is being a little funky.
Were you running on a treadmill and that hurt it or?
Yeah, I think I heard it snowboarding.
Interesting.
Yes. So maybe I'm just too old to snowboard.
Yeah, or too old to run, one or the other.
No.
No.
No, so I'm gonna run tomorrow the rest of the week and then just get back on it. I was gonna run this morning. I just tried to move around. So if I can't run, I'll do a 3 or 4 mile ruck and maybe that will be better.
So we're 6 weeks out. This Saturday will be 6 weeks, half marathon for Preston, full marathon for me.
Yeah. And I got to do 12 miles in 4 weeks. So I got a lot of work to do.
So what's your typically when you marathon or half marathon prep, you do one long run day per week. What's your long run day this week?
It'll be probably 8 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing 6 or 7 of my long run days before I left. 6 days off from running is not good for that. But so I'll probably do 7 or 8 this weekend and then plan on doing 12 in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I'm full marathon prep.
Weeks. Yeah.
My long run day this week is 16. So I'm like, if you're at 8 for a half marathon, it sounds like you're on pace.
Yeah.
In terms of ramping up.
Yeah. And the one thing, like, it was harder one thing I noticed because I just started running in June.
Yeah.
Really last June. And it was harder to get from like 2 miles or getting started to like 6 miles seemed very challenging. But for like 6 to 10 or 6 to 12 was not, I don't know. It just seemed like it was a lot harder in that first period. But once you got to like 6, to go from 6 to 12, the first time I did 10, I thought my legs were falling off. But
yeah,
from 6 to, it just seemed like from 6 to 12, it wasn't as challenging as it was from starting running to get to 6 miles.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think you build that aerobic base, number one, over time. But I think also there's a mental factor to it. I've told you before, like getting past that 10-mile mark, that 10-mile threshold. I swear, even when I run a longer run day now, I get to like 10 miles and I go through this little mental thing of like, is my knee hurt?
Yeah,
is my body falling apart?
This?
Yeah, and then like you just kind of zone out or zone in on something else, and that goes away, and it comes back at mile 15, or and as you ramp up, I think a lot of that is mental though too. Once you get up in those upper miles, but
yeah,
not the point of our podcast today to talk about running, but we had to get caught up on Preston. I want to talk about something I've been putting a lot of thought about, Preston, is I've talked about on the show. I've been working in the trenches with our ISA team, helping develop some good processes there. And a lot of that for me, Preston, is I've been in the trenches like making the calls.
Yeah.
And I've actually really enjoyed it. And it's re-engaged and reignited a lot of the prospector, I call it the hunt within. And a lot of the training and talking I've been doing with our ISA team is how to have better conversations. And I'm a firm believer better conversations are driven from the questions that you ask.
Yeah.
And what I want to kind of talk about here, Preston, is how to ask really good questions to keep a conversation going.
Yeah.
Right? Because the longer a conversation goes, statistically, the better chance you have at conversion.
Yeah, and you see, I'm sure you see that, even ISAs. I've see a lot of ISAs. They'll jump to, you know, the questions about the house too quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't even like give an opportunity to even learn anything about the individual.
Right.
So I think that's a good point is making sure, make make the conversations longer and make it not only about, what they're looking for in the house, because if that's all you jump into, you're not going to be any different from the next person that's going off a LP Mama script and
Yeah.
going exactly right into that dialogue.
And you sound salesy. What
Yeah.
happens when you sound salesy? People have that, and I've heard John Sheflack talk about that salesperson skepticism.
Yep.
And they put up that guard. And that's what I want to talk about: different ways to break down the guard. So first, let's frame up like keys to a good call. Right. Number one, keys to a good call, and I think there's 4 of them. This is what I teach my team. Number one, what's your desired outcome for the call? Right. So when you look at each person in your call queue, or you're looking at your database, and if you're an agent listening to this, or you're an ISA manager or whatever it is, when you're looking at, let's say, like a past client or someone you've had a conversation with before, in my mind, especially if it's a follow-up call, I set a mini goal. Like, okay, what would I like to see an outcome for this call? Sometimes I'll put it in the notes when I set like a follow-up task, call Preston back in 2 months, star handoff potentially.
Yeah.
Start. That's my goal for the call. When I call back in 2 months, I'm seeing if I can hand it off. Right.
Do you put any personal notes in for the clients? Like ask about
Yes.
whatever?
Yes, I absolutely do. So when I call back, I can kind of relate back to what they talked about. Like maybe they're moving from Pennsylvania, or they were going to be down here for in Myrtle Beach for a kids baseball tournament or something like that. Absolutely, you want to put that.
Yeah,
show that you listen.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. I mean, whether it's, it could be health related, like you have those conversations that say, hey, we were definitely going to move down there, but my wife had something happen, and it looks like it's going to be put off a little while, but she should be better in the next month or so. And so when you have that conversation and you ask about that, about that, say, hey, I just, want to call, you said reach back out. It's been about 2 months. First off, I want to, how's your wife doing? Is she getting better or whatever? And showing somebody that you care more about than just, hey, what location do you want? How many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms?
Right.
You just go through that script. Okay, good. You answered these questions. Let's hand you off to an agent.
Yeah. Typically my goal is in a call, Preston, is to get the people talking more than I'm talking.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? If the more they talk, the more they feel comfortable talking, you start to build trust. What happens as sales people, I listen to about as many phone calls as I make a day, and I go back and I am so I can give good feedback and I learn from it too. But most salespeople, what I notice is they get nervous. And when we get nervous, we want to fill that nervous air. So we just talk.
Oh yeah.
And we end up talking too much. And that's when people got to go, or they're in a rush, right?
2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah. All right. So number 1 is desired outcome. Number 2 is you should have some criteria. And we talk about LP Mama, which I'll define what that is in a second. LP Mama, they're questions, but they're not the questions to ask to prolong the question. They're criteria questions.
Yes, they're right.
Those questions are not important to the person you're talking to. They're important to you.
Yes.
Right. And there's a big difference there. So what is LP Mama? Right. It's an acronym that stands for location, price, motivation, agent, are they working with somebody, mortgage, how do they plan to pay, and then the last A would be set an appointment, right? Yep. LP Mama. So you keep that as a checklist. I know we do it with our team. You kind of go through that checklist of this is the criteria I want to check off in the conversation that I can make a good
Yeah,
handoff.
before you hand off. But we've also scaled some of that back too. And that's what you got to look at in the
Mhm.
market. Like we used to require 6 qualifying criteria all,
Yeah.
but now we with the market the way it is, you're not having those criteria answered as often. So
Right.
because there's not as many buyers.
Yes.
So we have slimmed that down to where, okay, we want to get more people in front of agents, speaking to agents. So we've actually, with the way the market is, we're actually handing off a little bit sooner than we would have before. So you one thing to think about with that too, having good conversations is, look at the market. Like what is the market,
Mhm.
based on a handoff or whatever you look at. Is sometimes you got to change a lot of those things.
Yeah, and to your point too, we have scaled it back. LP Mama still is I think criteria for a good conversation versus a great
Oh yeah.
conversation. A handoff, really, we're looking for the three main elements, right? Are they motivated, like ready to buy now or near future? Qualified, willing to talk to a lender, buying cash, and loyal. Are they already working with an agent or not, willing to commit to you or one of your agents, right? MQL. Um, where like when the market was busier, say a year and a half, 2 years ago, and agents were just overwhelmed with business, we really scaled back to that LP Mama, right? We wanted people more ready
Yeah.
to buy right now because we didn't want the agents to have to spend valuable time in the nurture process because they were just in conversion mode,
Oh yeah.
right? People
Yeah.
want to see a house, it was convert, 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 convert. So we had to really time the handoff right. Now the market has shifted and the agents are more apt to have really good conversations. Now they're in nurture and conversion mode, right?
Yeah.
That's the nurture to conversion is a really important skill for agents to have right now to be successful. So we hand them off a little bit sooner,
Yes.
right? All right. So we talked about have an outcome for each call, have your criteria, LP Mama, motivated, qualified, loyal, right? That's your criteria in the conversation, what you're trying to achieve in the conversation. The next part is a really hard one. And I have an acronym for that too that I use with my team. It's called SAS, and that's listen. How do we know we listened really well? And so as you're talking, I do this, and I've taught some of our ISAs to do this. I write the letters SAS, right? And as I'm listening, to make sure I'm listening, not talking too much, I say, okay, can I summarize the conversation at the end of the conversation? Right? What's going to go into notes? What's Preston looking for? Where is he moving from? How is he planning to pay? Right? All that criteria and all that kind of stuff. Action as he's talking, right? What kind of action are we looking to take from the call? Is it a handoff? Is it something I'm going to nurture for a while? That kind of stuff. And then at the very end of every conversation, what's the next steps?
Yep.
Right? Steps is the last S. Next, and S stands for next steps. So SAS. So as I'm going through the conversation, and at the very end, I want to summarize with Preston what he told me, show what I listened, talk about like the actions I could do to help him out, and then set a next step next time we're going to talk, or somebody from my team is going to talk to him.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, actionable. That step needs to be something actionable. One thing that I do see is a lot of times in the past, agents or ISAs would have really good conversations, and they would end it with kind of just a non-committal, "Hey, well, call you in a month or so,"
Yes,
or
vague
yeah, or
commitment.
or you or the best, you call me when you're ready to buy, or you call me when you're ready to look at a house.
Yeah,
Had a good conversation and just leaving it kind of too open ended. Of they're going to get most likely they won't get back to you, because you just had a conversation with them one time.
right.
So it's definitely, end with some kind of actionable item that's put into a calendar and it's sent to them and you follow up with it.
You be specific. Is it
Yeah.
Preston? Is it okay if we stay in touch? Preston will say, "Yeah." All right, I'm going to send you properties on a weekly basis. I'm going to call you back March 1st just to make sure you guys are good. You talked about coming here in the spring. We'll create a game plan for when you're here.
Yeah. And if you're
That's
worried about
specific.
that, there's a lot of systems. Like we use a system where, say that happens, we'll make sure we send out an automated text, but it's scheduled text. So it
Mhm.
looks like it instead of saying, and look at that from a standpoint of the way you run your business, right? Don't create a task to send a text. If you have the ability to schedule a text within the system you run,
Yeah.
go ahead and schedule that text while you're in the moment with that. You just hung up with that person. You have all that information about them. You could put something personal in that text message, send that text message, say you're talking to them 2 months from now, send it the day before, say, hey, I'm excited to hop on the call with you tomorrow, or if you do it the same day, because they might have forgot about that calendar appointment or whatever, but just make sure send something out and just don't call them out of the blue.
Right.
That's personally what I like to do, just make sure to send something out, say, hey, we have that appointment tomorrow. I want to make sure you're available and, look forward to talking to you again.
Mhm.
Whatever you put in that text, but, make it personal would definitely benefit.
Yep.
And schedule it while you're in that, lead in that information, potential client, before you close it out and move on to the next one.
Yeah. Always the best practice of never close out a client or a lead or whatever in your CRM without setting a next task, a
Yep.
next step. Always set a next step. All right. So keys to a good call. We talked about have an outcome, right? Have criteria that you work with. LP Mama, MQL, listen, SAS, right? Make sure you can kind of summarize the conversation to whoever you talk to. The fourth one, Preston, is a really hard one to learn, and I'm teaching it to my team, is tone, right? Matching who you're talking to, matching their tone. It's like over the phone. It's really easy to do in person. When you talk to somebody, you can match their body language, right? There's facial expressions, things like that. Over the phone, it's really difficult. So how do you do that? You do that with tone and the speed in which you talk, right? You become a chameleon, basically, to the person that you're talking to, because the person you're talking to is more likely to trust and do business with the person over the phone if they sound and match the tone of the person they're talking to.
For sure. And being energetic, I mean, not too energetic,
Yeah.
but not sounding like, hey, how you doing?
You can't
You
talk the same to
you
every person on the
you
phone.
you look into yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to, you still need to be energetic somewhat. I hear some, I've heard people call and they're just like, I try to get off the phone as soon as I can.
Mhm.
It's that you always hear smile and dial where stand up, smile when you make calls because your voice sounds different. And obviously if you're hunched over and speaking on a phone or talking on a phone, your voice is going to sound a lot different because your lungs and your airways are kind of pinched. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something to think about when you're calling.
Mhm.
Be relaxed, sit up straight.
Yes. I like standing
Standing
calling.
up, yeah, I love and you see it all the time. Like these sales rooms, they'll have headsets on and they're tossing a football around to themselves or moving around or staying energetic, and those things doesn't mean to. You don't have to be too energetic to scare somebody away, but you
Get
gotta
pushed
sound
up so you're making calls.
yeah.
Just kidding.
You gotta sound like you're breathing and
Uh,
active and you're not hating calling, because
yeah,
if you're hating calling, they're gonna feel that in the phone and hear that.
absolutely.
So that's definitely something to focus on when you do call. Just make and that's why I think it's good to do it in the morning, to have that dedicated time because, I mean, I'm sure most like me, I have more energy a lot of times first thing in the morning,
Mhm.
that 8:30 to 11 o'clock window. If I had to call every day at between 3 and 6, I probably wouldn't be as motivated.
I'll tell you something I've been doing recently and it works. When I'm going to follow back up with somebody, let's say I call you, you answer the phone at 3.
Mhm.
When I set that follow up time to, hey, let me try Preston again and talk to him again. And this just worked really well. I call you again at 3.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
know at 3 o'clock, whatever's going on in your schedule, you answered the phone.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
one thing with the text messaging too is what I like to do when I'm scheduling text message because you can choose a time.
Yeah.
Choose a time when they're most likely to have a break, like, send it around lunchtime.
Lunchtime. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good one.
then when something you gotta pay attention to with that though, when you have those conversations, make sure you're aware of where they're at and what time zone they're in. You know what I mean? Because like, if I'm
True.
trying to schedule it at lunch and they're West Coast, there's 3-hour difference, then I need to make sure that I'm not sending it at 9
Yeah.
instead of 12 and, or 3 instead of 12, whatever it is, depending on if it's East Coast, West Coast, wherever you're at, where you're listening from. I would just pay attention to those area codes. And a lot of times the area code doesn't always don't just take that, hey, they're West
Right.
Coast, because a lot of people keep their phone numbers forever. So they might be living on the East Coast
Yeah.
now and still have a phone number that's on the West Coast. So
Right.
just to make sure you have that information of where they're at. And when you do go schedule those text messages, you could kind of schedule them around a time when, they're at lunch if they have a job or whatever.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Going back to tonality, right? And just matching someone's tone. One thing that I've learned over the years that works really well too, and this happens a lot. If if you've done any kind of prospect calling, you've had this phone call where you call somebody and they're in a big rush and they can't talk to you, but they'll take that couple minutes to tell you that.
Yeah.
I automatically speed up whatever it is I'm saying. I
Yeah.
get right to the point. Like I lose whatever script I was using I'm like, hey, Preston, I get it. You're in a rush. Listen, you were looking for a house in the Myrtle Beach area about a year ago. Just wanted to check in, see if we can help you out at all. I like, boom, right to why I'm calling you. And a lot of times they'll be like, hey, listen, I'm at work right now. Can you call me back at 3:00?
Yeah.
Versus if I went through this big old pitch of like talking about the weather or whatever it was I had planned out, and I kind of go into the phone call, they were going to hang up. Right. So that's an example of if they're talking fast, talk fast. And I'll give you the exact opposite of that. We live in the South. A lot of times you call people are very relaxed.
Yeah.
They're very polite. I go into relaxation mode and I slow down. I'm from New York originally, right? I'm a fast talker by nature. Sometimes I got to slow down and be like, hey, buddy, how's it going? This is Travis from Easy Home Search. You having a good day? All right, yeah, me too, man. And I'll throw something like that in there because that's the tonality they hit me with. I match it. I'm a chameleon on the phone. I try to be.
But you don't try to have a Southern accent.
No, I don't try and do that because I would I would lose people.
Or yeah, I would not try to do a Northern accent.
I can very easily, if I'm talking to a person from Long Island, I grew up in Long Island, New York. I could very easily turn on the Long Island pretty quickly and win some people over that way. But yeah, I will never try and talk with a Southern accent. I would lose the room pretty quickly.
Yeah. So when you say match the way somebody, doesn't mean match the way somebody is speaking.
I'm talking
match
speed.
Speed. Yeah.
Speed.
So
don't
try to talk like me with a Northern accent would not trick anybody.
Yeah, but like I've been on the phone and I've noticed too, like if I had phone and someone's like, hey buddy, how's it going? I'll hit him back. Yeah, man, I'm doing great. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you know that. I mean, some people you need to have a more professional approach. And, you know, just like when you see somebody face to face, somebody's, you could joke around with some people and then some people you joke around, and it's going to turn them off. So that same approach.
You got to read the room.
Yep. Speed. Speed.
Yeah. And I think also like I call it, I've always used the term friends and family effect. Like I'm going to like in a best case scenario, not every conversation is going to go this way, but if you can enter the conversation, like I'm talking to Preston right now, I've known Preston for years. We're very relaxed in dialogue with each other. If I can enter a phone call the same way and not stiff, that phone call is going to go a lot better. That's part of tone also.
Yeah.
Right. There is some people you have to be super professional mode in. Again, you just have to read the room. So just recapping, 4 keys to a good call is outcome, criteria, listen, right? SAS, be able to summarize that conversation back with next steps. And of course, matching the tone of who you're talking to, right? That's it. The next part of this I want to talk about is how to keep the conversation going, because that happens sometimes too, right? You get like these weird, awkward silences, and all of a sudden we just start talking to fill the air.
Is that like when you tell Elton that was a weird silence? Cut it out.
Yeah. Sometimes that'll happen when we're recording a podcast, and I'll say, "Hey, let's take out that weird, awkward silence Preston I just had." Does happen every now and again. But recently I attended a training and I took these away from of types of conversations to ask on a prospecting call. And the 4 types of questions to ask are tag, statement question, a replay question, and a clarification question. So I wanted to talk about those 4. So the number 1 is the tag question, right? And the tag question is simply taking something they said and turning it into a conversation. Right. So if I'm talking to you, Preston, and you're like, yeah, I'm moving my family down here from New York, and you kind of give me the whole spiel about what you got going on, and I want to keep that going, right? A good tag question would be like, Preston, you just told me you were from New York. Tell me something you're going to miss most about the house you guys have now in New York.
Yes.
That's a tag question, right? It's going to get you talking more, and it's a way to get to LP Mama, right? But just more organically, right? You're telling me more about your situation in New York.
You're gonna miss the basement because there's no basements down here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time.
So how do you fix that? You need a big ass room above your garage.
Yeah. The next type of question is a statement question, right? This is a good one too. So if I'm on the phone with Preston and he tells me a very common phone call in the Myrtle Beach area is I'm looking for an investment property, and you start telling me about the investment property you're looking for. It's a condo. It's this. It's that. I go back to that statement, similar to tag, but now it's a statement question. All right, Preston, you told me you were looking for a investment property. What strategies are you using right now to find that type of property? Very important for a sales call. That's a very important question.
Yeah.
So Preston told me he's looking on Zillow. I said, no, Preston. I said, strategies. What strategies are you using?
Yeah.
No, I was kidding. I wouldn't challenge them like that. But
You wouldn't
what
look on Zillow anyway.
you wouldn't look until.
You'd
But a
look where
strat.
would you look?
But if they didn't have an answer to the question, what's a strategy I could recommend?
Yeah, you would look on Easy Home Search.
Look
And
on
then
Easy Home Search.
and
But
then
hey, listen, I have a sales professional on my team that could help you out with that.
yes, for sure.
Right? That's a strategy.
Yeah, I'm watching YouTube videos
Yeah.
on how to buy investment properties I've never bought.
It's a good question to ask, especially for a lot of people buying investment
Well,
properties.
in investment property too, there's a lot of things they don't take into account.
Yep.
You know, they're like, oh yeah, it's gross income. Yeah, but you have all these other expenses and everything else. You know, there's a lot that you have to learn. There's certain properties that might not make sense for what they want to do. So
Yeah. So the other type of question, the third type of question is a replay question, right? So it's you're kind of building off a question you asked them earlier or a statement they made earlier, right? And a very common one would be, "No, we're just looking. We're not looking to buy right now. We're just looking."
why are you looking?
The replay I love to go into is, "No, I can appreciate you're just looking, but Preston, tell me what you're looking for. I want to make sure I make it about them. I want to make sure we're sending you the right properties from our website. So tell me a little bit more about what you're just looking for."
Yeah, and something to do there too when they say just looking, you know, if you could dig into the price point then, and the thing to say with that is, you know, I just want to help you because there are certain areas where if you're in a certain price point, it doesn't make sense for you to be looking in that
Yeah.
area. And most people in our market, they search the term that a lot of them search because they don't necessarily know the market that well and they don't know the smaller towns around it. They come in Myrtle Beach, right? So they
Yeah.
come in Myrtle Beach and you know, that's a good conversation and a place to take them and say, hey, you know, based on the reason I asked your price point, because there are certain markets that you could search in
Mhm.
that would make sense for the price range that you're in.
Sure.
But yeah, just looking is something, just looking and, you know, rates, waiting for rates to go down or, you know, it's not a good time to buy because of mortgage rates. So
Yeah, but I always think the just looking one, I always challenge my team to dig further on that because you get a lot of that, right? And now we're just looking right now. Okay, yeah, I want to make sure we're sending you the right properties, right? I want to make sure we're sending you the right properties. Tell me a little more about like when you guys get ready someday, what are you just looking at or what are you guys
yeah,
looking for? Right. And then they start open up. They start telling you, hey, we're looking for this, looking at this price point. You know, we'd really like to come down here this summer and look at some stuff. Well, now just looking got into like, well, this summer is pretty close.
yeah, for
Right.
sure.
What steps have you started taking to make sure you guys are ready in the summer?
Well, I
Right.
mean, look at it this way. How many times you walked into maybe they don't do it as much now because a lot of people buy cars online, but you know, walk into a car dealership and somebody approaches you, no, we're just looking. Yeah,
Right.
you were just, I mean, it's like a immediate
Salesperson.
reaction
Yeah.
to anybody running up or calling you or whatever. So it's something that, you know, I've said that when I was planning on buying something, but I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Me too.
I'm just looking.
Because I want to gather my thought, right? I want to feel out the room. I have that salesperson skepticism. By just looking, I turn that statement around into a question of how I can better help you just look.
Yep.
Well, tell me what you're just looking for so I can make sure we're sending you the right properties to help you look. Right? I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to send you the right properties. Because obviously you're opening them, right? That's what you know. I don't say that, but we're on the phone because you're opening up the emails and looking
Yeah,
at the
for sure.
properties, right?
Yeah.
And then the last type of question, most important, is the clarification question. And the clarification question comes when you get a vague statement, right? And a great example would be, well, we'd buy now if we found the right deal. Okay, Preston. I can respect that. Tell me what do you define as the right deal? That's the clarification question.
Yeah.
Right. Clarify. What do you define as a good price? What do you define as you got to find something pretty fast? Right. It's just clarifying what they already told you so you can take it from being vague to something more specific and go back to SAS, right? SAS we talked about earlier, and you're making notes as you're talking to them. Clarifying helps you come up with a better summary, a better action plan, and hey, what can my next steps be? Because if we found the right deal, you get a lot of people like that, like, we don't have to buy, but if we found the right deal, we'd buy something.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the right deal? Define that. Like, what's a good deal to you guys? Maybe I can find it for you. You know,
Oceanfront house for 500,000.
I'd buy that too.
I'd buy 10 of those.
Yeah. Preston, anything you want to add to asking better questions?
No, I mean, I think you touched on all of it. I mean, just keep the keep the conversation going, and ask. No, I don't have anything. Cut that out as well.
All right, guys. All right, guys. Hopefully you took some value from 4 steps to a great call. criteria to ask more questions and keep the conversation going. As always, have a great rest of your day. Have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.
See ya.